All right, tonight is a really exciting night as we have the Micky Dolenz speaking with us here at KOCI. You may know him from the Monkees, maybe from his acting and directing, or even from his solo career. Whatever it may be, we are so honored to be talking with this legend. So welcome, Micky. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you. Thanks for asking me.
Of course. And Micky, you have a show on July 5th at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. So to start this thing off, what are some things that we can expect to hear that would entice us to go? Are we going to hear more Monkees songs, more solo songs, or just any other surprises?
Well, I always do the Monkey hits, whether I'm on solo or with one of the other guys or two of the other, or all of us. I've always made sure that, because I sang the majority of the hits,
of course,
and I've just always made it a principle that I know that a lot of the people, maybe the majority of the people, they're there to hear those hits. You know, when I go to see acts that I am a fan of or was a fan of or something, I get very disappointed if they don't do those hits, and I want to hear them like I remember them. A good example is once in London when I lived there, it was when the Everly Brothers got back together for the first time and played Albert Hall. And I was a huge Everly Brothers fan, and I bought tickets and was there in front row center. And but I was wondering. I was saying, I wonder if they're going to do "Wake Up, Little Susie" and all of those hit songs that I remembered from my childhood. And they sure did. They did them as I remembered them, and I remembered at the time thinking, I was there directing and producing television shows, but I remember thinking to myself, if I ever am asked to go out, this was like in the 70s and 80s, if I'm ever asked to go out and sing those Monkey songs again, I'm going to make sure that I do them, and I do them the way that people remember. So yeah, the short answer is I do all the Monkeys, and then depending on the venue, depending on the audience and the demographic and stuff like that, I'll throw in some album cuts, sometimes deep album cuts, or I'll do sometimes I will do non-Monkey material. But if I do, I always have some sort of a story to go along with. Like I tell the story of going to a few of the Beatles sessions and listening to them record, and I might do a Beatles tune that I was there at, or I might tell the story of the audition piece that I did for the Monkees, which was a Chuck Berry tune. And so if I do non-Monkey stuff, it usually does have a story. My sister Coco, who's an incredible singer, will come along, and she'll do a couple of little surprise tunes. And that's basically it. And of course, I got video and of the era and of the time, and it's not necessarily like a one-man show because I have a pretty nice sized band. And but if you're a fan of that era and that music, and of course a fan of the Monkees, I can promise you will not be disappointed.
Well, that sure sounds like a lot of fun and a perfect combination of old songs and new songs. So definitely not something we would want to miss. And I know you just
we have a lot of fun, and the highlight of the evening is that I hire the Blue Angels. That the jet Air Force jet formation team. Yeah, they fly by and do formation stuff in jet planes. Yeah, well, I hire them, and I have them do it inside the club.
What? How do they even do that?
Yeah, they fly around inside the club at about 700 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty crazy.
It's kind of, it's very cool. I distribute earplugs And that's the kind of the highlight of the evening.
That sounds crazy. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm going to make myself ready. And well, speaking of planes, I know you just got back from touring in Australia with fellow Monkees member Mike Nesmith. So I know you're really jet lagged and probably pretty tired. So again, thank you for joining us at nighttime. But how was it playing in the land down under?
Well, we had an incredible tour. We sold out the Sydney Opera House. We got really amazing reviews. And all in all, it was very, very, very successful a tour. But yeah, boy, coming back from it's 17 hours in the future, Australia, from where I live here on the West Coast. I felt like I was in the movie Interstellar. I was like coming in from another, dimension or something. Yeah, it beat me up pretty good, but I'll be fine by showtime.
All right, that's all that matters. Just rest for the next week, and as long as you're good for the Coach House, that's all we need.
No, yeah, I'll be there, and thanks so much for your time.
Of course. And you've been in show business since childhood, all the way back to age 10, I believe, when you started on the show Circus Boy back in the 50s. So what was it, continuing in your show business, that made you want to audition for the Monkees TV show when that audition was announced?
Well, as you say, I'd already been in showbiz for 10 years. Actually, my first screen test, I was 6.
Wow.
The Circus Boy series came along when I was 10, but my first screen test was I was 6 years old.
Wow.
I actually have some prenatal work coming out on ultrasound, which I will... and I was in a showbiz family. My father was an actor and a singer. My mom was an actress and a singer. So it just ran on I basically followed in my father's footsteps. And after Circus Boy, I did a few things on television. And then when I was about 20, 21, an audition came up for a show called The Monkees. And I went and auditioned, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually in college studying to be an architect.
Wow.
The audition came along.
I think you took the right path there.
Well, I don't know. I hope so.
And rumor is you didn't even know how to play the drums when you first got the gig. You were much more of a guitar player. So how did you...
I was totally a guitar player, yep.
Yeah, so how were you chosen as the drummer, and how did you learn it so fast?
Well, I wasn't starting from square one. I mean, I said, I had studied classical guitar as a kid and all through high school and stuff, and then morphed into folk music and rock and roll. So I could read music, and I'd been in bands, cover bands, and I'd sat down and played around on the drums. So I wasn't starting from square one, and I had quite a while to study, and I did. I studied very hard, and I practiced very hard, and I only had to learn the stuff that I had to learn. It wasn't like I had to learn to be a studio cat, a studio musician. I only had to learn the songs that I had to play and sing in the Monkees, and I worked very hard at it,
And so you, Peter, Michael, and Davey were so goofy and fun on the Monkees TV shows. Hard for anyone not to love you. Was everyone still this lighthearted kind of way behind the scenes? And did you still have the same kind of chemistry as you did on the screen?
Well, to some degree, yeah, because, we were cast as you would cast a musical. I think of it more as a sort of the Monkees as sort of a Marx Brothers musical on television.
Yeah.
Actually, it was one of the Beatles, John Lennon, who first made that comparison, that the Monkees were like a little half-hour Marx Brothers movie. They screened the Marx Brothers movies for us after we were cast, to give us an idea of the flavor they wanted for the television show.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, and I have no idea why or how they cast the four of us. I was very grateful, and to this day I feel blessed that I was part of that show, because it certainly brought a lot of people a lot of happiness.
That you did, definitely. And I know as the show developed and you all realized what a great and talented band you actually were, you all then began to take a lot more musical control. So can you tell us what the transition was like of going from a TV band to an actual legitimate touring rock and roll band of talented musicians? You guys were very talented.
That's a real long story. First of all, the Monkees was not a made-up TV band.
Mm-hmm.
It was a television show about a band. The band didn't exist. It was fictitious. We lived in this beach house, which was a set, a Malibu beach house, and we had these little adventures. And it does beg the question of how we could afford a Malibu beach house when we never done any work. Because the show was about this band that wanted to be the Beatles. So if you look at it like that and you understand that, everything else makes a whole lot of sense. So if you understand that it was a television show about this band.
Yes.
Now, at one point, obviously they had in mind that we were going to perform, because they wouldn't have bothered to hire musicians and singers. They wouldn't have bothered. They would have just faked it. But they, like with Glee, they hired people that actually could really do it. They could sing and they could dance and act and perform. If I'm not mistaken, the cast of Glee went out on the road and did concerts, if I'm not mistaken, as we did.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the Monkees like that, much more like a musical theater, and we went on the road like you would in a musical Broadway show, and we performed and we did it all. We sang and acted and played and did the stick and the comedy and everything. And if you understand that, then the whole Monkee sort of, ethos just sort of makes much more sense.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a favorite episode of the Monkees?
No, because, we shot them continuously. They were like back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember individual episodes so much. I tend to remember people that I worked with.
Mm-hmm.
But not so much any particular episode or scene or anything like that, because it was continuous. We didn't stop. We would film one episode in 3 days, and then we would start another episode the next day. And this went on for weeks, months. And so it all is like one big episode to me.
Yeah.
One very long episode. But I do remember people that I worked with, wonderful actors and actresses, and of course, the directors. There was a whole lot of people involved in that project in the Monkees. It wasn't just the four of us. It was directors and writers and producers. I mean, if you look at the songwriters alone, and these are the songs that I'll be singing, at the Coach House next week. Songs by Carole King and Jerry Goffin and Neil Diamond and Boyce and Hart and and Nesmith, Michael Nesmith, and we had this stable of incredible songwriters,
mm-hmm.
and also writers on the television show. The script writers and the directors and the producers and there was, and like I say, I just have always felt blessed to have been part of it.
Seems like an amazing team behind the scenes and on the scene the whole entire series. That just seems like such a great time, and it led to such amazing music.
Great music and great writers, and like I say, I constantly get people saying to me, how much it meant to them and how much fun they had, and because remember also that the show came on the air at a very, very I don't know what the word is. In '66, there was a lot going on in '66, socially and politically and economically, and
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, along comes these four wacky characters with long hair. And before that, before the Monkees, the only time you saw kids with long hair on television, they were getting arrested. So all of a sudden, we came along, and having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really were there to lighten the mood of all the heavy stuff going on during the late 60s, and that's also something else amazing that you guys were doing. So we sadly lost Davy Jones in 2012 and Peter Tork earlier this year. But up until their deaths, did you remain good friends with all your bandmates throughout all these years? It seems like you have, at least with Michael Nesmith, as you just got back from tour with him.
Well, we all kept in touch. In '86, David and Peter and I had a huge reunion tour. It was the biggest tour that year of anybody. And Mike joined us for a couple shows. And then over the decades, we would get back together in different configurations. David and I would go out sometimes as a duo. Peter and I and David, of course. Peter and I went out a couple times as a duo after Davy passed. And then this Australian tour, and then last year with Mike, he and I went out as a duo. And so we've gone out in very different configurations, over the years, and we keep in touch, and sometimes not for a while, but we all of us had and have, our own solo careers too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like the kind of friendship where you can go months without talking, and yet when you see each other again or just speak again, it's like no time has passed.
The closest thing that I related to, the kind of closest thing I compare it to, is having siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Siblings?
I do. I have 3 big brothers.
Well, need I say more? In our relationship, the 4 of us, because, one day we were just introduced to each other on the set, and it became and it is like siblings. I've spent more time with those guys than I probably did my own siblings. And you have your ups and you have your downs,
Mm-hmm. You can definitely see that brotherhood that the Monkees have always had. So I believe that. And with all this, you've told us about all the tours you've done with your different bandmates and the different configurations and just everything you've been doing your whole entire life, basically. You have not stopped going, whether it was music, directing, theater, or just any form of entertainment. So what is your secret for all of this lasting creative energy?
Well, a moving target's harder to hit.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
No, my mother used to say I have ants in my pants. It is. I'm not the kind of person that can sit still for too long. I tend to, be active. But on the, having said that, what I do in the entertainment industry, is a lot of fun, and even touring, which is very, very tough, especially at my age now. We have a saying that they pay us to travel, we sing for free. But it is work, but it also, of course, is a lot of fun, especially when you see the joy on people's faces, when they hear the music and they see us. So, but I've just always kept busy,
Mm-hmm.
always doing something. I have a a woodworking business with my daughter and my sister called Dolenz and Daughters Fine Furniture. And I was in the shop today working on doing woodworking because I love it, and you know it's a source of relaxation and for me, and I love doing that, and I love gardening, and I love doing different activities, and I've always liked to keep busy. I'll never retire. I tried once in my 30s. It was horrible, and so I'll keep doing it, and forever, I guess.
Well, that's good news for all of us. Well, thank you again so much for speaking with us tonight. Do you have any last words of why everybody should come and see you at the Coach House on July 5th?
Because I need to pay my mortgage.
All right, there you go, everyone. Come and pay Micky Dolenz's mortgage.
There you go.